On after 8 this morning, the storm over influence peddling in Washington. In 1981, there were 5,662 lobbyists. Now there are 20,400, or about 30 lobbyists for every member of the United States Congress. And there are several bills in the hopper there to tighten up lobbying law. Joining us now to talk about it this morning in our Washington studio, Robert Gray, chairman of Gray & Company, a lobbying and public relations firm. Mr. Gray was secretary to the cabinet in the Eisenhower administration and was co-chairman of President Reagan's inaugural in 1981. And in our Burbank studio in California, Senator Howard Metzenbaum, Democrat of Ohio, who recently said that Washington has become a, quote, sinkhole of influence peddling. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
Is this a recent development?
No, I don't think it's a recent development. I think it's a development that's been in place for a number of years. I think the process, though, has become abused during this administration. I think that now it's a question not alone of what you know, but who you know, and whether or not you can afford to buy the highest priced lobbyists. And the sad part is that so many people are leaving the administration and leaving the halls of Congress as well, immediately turning around and becoming lobbyists for special interests. I think as a consequence, the American people have lost confidence in their elected officials as well as their appointed officials.
Mr. Gray, is there any doubt about it that the turnstile has been exceptionally active in the Reagan administration, out the door and into consulting, lobbying, PR activities?
I think it's true that that the whole level of activity in the lobbying field is increased, but you mentioned a few moments ago, Jane, that the number of lobbyists has increased by some five-fold in recent years. The explosion of information has increased even more so. And today you have an enormous preponderance, just an avalanche of information coming on members of Congress. We haven't been able to stretch their day by as much as a half a second, and therefore they need some forces on the outside to help distill the views, to help apply legislative theory and practical application in terms of products and prices and people and balance of payments and foreign competition and so forth. And lobbyists representing various views can help bring that practical application to the legislator.
You, Mr. Gray, represent, among others, a pretty eclectic list of clients. Stroh's Beer, Hyundai, the Korean car maker, Hughes Aircraft, the government of Turkey. What's the common denominator?
Well, the common denominator is the common denominator which faces most of business and governments today, and that's the need to communicate. They have important views that need to be presented. We need to communicate those views. And you think of me as a lobbyist, and I'm proud that you identify me as such. I'm not ashamed of that at all. But in my firm at Gray & Company, we have over 200 people. Only 10% or so of those are lobbyists. The rest are communicators, providing information to members of Congress and putting information out into the mainstream of the American public thinking to help implement those views and help to prioritize differently than perhaps citizens otherwise would prioritize.
Senator Metzenbaum, what's wrong with that? I mean, virtually all of us in one way or another represented by a lobbyist. I know NBC has a lobbyist, senior citizens groups, doctors, consumer groups. Doesn't everybody in one way or another have one?
Well, I think there's a question, Jane, between the matter of communicating, which nobody has any objection to, and it is a fact that it sometimes is helpful to have somebody interpret a point of view. But what we're talking about now is a combination, not alone of the lobbyist who communicates, but we also have the problem of the political action committees, and they put that combination together, and that means money, and that means money in the political process. And therefore, if you can pay enough to hire the highest priced lobbyists, those lobbyists help you raise money when you're campaigning for political office, the combination becomes insidious. And as a matter of fact, it works its way into the point where even with the upcoming tax bill, I sit here and tell you I'm concerned as to what the lobbyists are going to be able to do back home and putting pressure upon some of the members of the Senate and the House to destroy much of the effort that has already been achieved by both the House as well as the Senate Finance Committee. I think that you can't take a broad brush and say that all lobbyists are evil or all lobbyists are dishonest or anything of the kind, because that actually is not the fact. But what we are saying, and Strom Thurmond has a bill in which I'm trying to work out some details with him in the Senate Judiciary Committee. I feel confident we'll move it out very promptly. And that bill would make it impossible to be a part of the revolving door, where one day you're representing government, you're explaining the position of government, you're fighting for government, and a day or a week later, you're working for the very corporation with whom you were negotiating for the government.
Senator
you have
Metzenbaum,
inside information.
I'm going to have to interject here and thank you for being with us, looking at the clock as I am this morning. Robert Gray in Washington, we thank you for joining us.
Mike.
22 after the hour. This is Today on NBC.